Welcome to the UpLevel Podcast, Debbie.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
I've been looking for a place to weave you in for some time, and I felt that the topic of right relationship was a good place to call you in. And so let's start there. How do you define right relationship in your context that you're coming from?
I would assume that when you say right relationships, you're talking about relationships that feel authentic.
Mm.
Is that what you're thinking, or is that what I'm just taking?
It's really what your take is on it. You know, we've talked to people this season from all different backgrounds, industries, perspectives. And so I'm really just in an exploration of it. So I'm just curious, and that if that feels right for you, then let's go with it.
I mean, I think, like, for me, in all of my relationships, whether it's business, personal, family, it has to be authentic, or else I'm really not that good at it. So we know each other for, God, like well over a decade or more actually.
Yeah.
And, I'm not good at faking things.
Yeah.
And nor does it feel good. And so the people that I've surrounded myself have always been some people who I feel that there's an authentic connection with. And because of that, not only are they deeper relationships, but they're more effective. Like if they're in business, working with somebody that I actually respect and feel that we have some kind of a connection, that we're relating to each other and it's real and it's not a struggle to have a conversation. It's so funny. Like sometimes you meet somebody like at a party or you're introduced to somebody and they're supposedly great. And, I talk a lot, you talk a lot. Like we know how to do that.
Yeah.
And you have nothing to say to them.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. And there is that real lack of chemistry, but I think that's why you kind of gravitate to people who there's that ease of connection and you feel a trust like right away. And I think those are the relationships that work, and they work in business. For example, I had dinner last night with the president of Rodney Strong Vineyards, which is a sustainable, very, very large company and amazing wines. And they've been a sponsor really only for 2 years. We could talk for 500 hours.
Yeah.
And so he actually flew from the Midwest to LA just to have dinner, because we needed to connect, just to do a dinner, because I think that this is a business relationship that also is something that it can be very personal and very real. And then you want to do things together. So I think in business, if you have these connections that make sense and that you're not forcing, then productivity happens from that.
Most definitely. And that's definitely been a theme from other business leaders is not in the past, a lot of us have been conditioned to separate personal life from organizational life. And one of our guests was saying it's really important to be friends with our clients, with our collaborators, with our team members. Of course, there's certain boundaries and, and just awarenesses. But what I hear you speaking about for you, right relationship is having those really powerful connections, and that just makes the work better.
Right. I think so. And I have board members that I met like professionally who are my family.
Yeah.
And fully not everyone. Yeah. But, they're the people that you want to have, then that supersedes everything. And then if you share a passion, you're on a path together, it becomes more of a life path. And so that again, it makes it so much more effective.
And that's what I've really seen in you and your leadership, that you've brought people into the work that you do through EMA, and they're like family, even if they're not blood family. But the way that you hold the relationships, the way that you nurture the friendships. And I love what you said about there's a shared purpose that is part of the intersection of the relationship.
Right.
So I'm just
Right.
thinking for those listeners, who've maybe been along with us for the whole season as we've explored this, to really look at the relationships where there is a shared purpose, and or start asking people, like, what has you get up every morning and come here? What is driving you? And maybe there's a way to explore and help find a shared purpose if it's not obvious.
Right. I think that, you have your friends from childhood, and then as you get older, some of them stick, some of them you become different people. But sometimes when you meet people as an adult, there is also shared philosophies, shared interests, shared purpose. And then that friendship just becomes something that maybe you wouldn't have been friends when you were younger. But now that you've evolved more of who you are, what's important to you, that's where the bond is. And then the bond of shared purpose often turns into intimate friendship.
Mm.
And so then it takes on another level. But I also think that in business, like, obviously, tons of people. Like, we all know people from everywhere. And there's people that you genuinely like and that you genuinely feel are amazing, but they're not going to be your friend family.
Yeah.
But that's okay, because when you're present, I think it's just really important in a meeting, in a lunch, in whatever it is with business, that you really connect and listen to who you're with and make them. It's funny, like, you always hear things like Bill Clinton. Oh, people who met him, like, he always looks at you and makes you feel really important. That's like a story that you've heard from all the people who have ever met him.
Mm.
There are certain prominent people that make people feel important when they're talking at that moment.
Mhm.
And I feel like that's really important.
Mm.
Like, and you have to have a genuine interest in that other person, or else it's fake. So I think that being interested in your business associates when you're in that moment
Yeah.
genuinely helps sustain the work that you're doing.
And creates the right relationship. So, like,
Yes.
you're talking about one of your practices, which I hear is your presence and being present. So how do you, and I talked about this before we hit record, and it's everyone's aware that we're living through very wild and just I mean, we can't even say unprecedented anymore. It's just a wild time to be here.
Yeah.
How do you recover, like Debbie, as a leader, as a business owner, as a mother, as a partner, as a grandmother, recover to presence, find your center in the moments, especially during these times?
It's really hard. It is really hard because you're getting battered by the world. Politically, environmentally, personally, it's all really hard. I've never lived through a period of time where sort of everything was upside down.
Everything.
I think that, there is that. I think you just really dig into who you are
Mhm.
and stay there. And I think that's where the more authentic you can be with everybody. And this is who I am, and kind of keeping your family and your friends close,
Yeah.
and not being afraid to sort of own yourself. I mean, I think there's no other way. I mean, if not, you're going to get lost in social media, and you're going to be reading all this stuff, and it's all manipulative. And I think that that's the scariest part, is that people are only getting information about everything from whatever algorithm they're in. And that's never happened in our society. Even when you were young, you would watch the news and it was actually news.
Yeah.
There's no reality anymore. So I think you have to just be really secure in who you are.
Yeah.
And kind of just taking care of yourself. And I think that is more important than ever right now. And understanding where you're getting information, and if some people in your world start to make you uncomfortable, you don't need to stay there.
Okay, so many good practices there. So one is being really mindful of what you're consuming. And I
Really.
think that's really, really important right now because there is just so much coming
Right.
at us. And I'm so aligned with you what you're saying about we can't trust this information anymore. And we're seeing the impact of the dysregulation it's causing at a collective level. You know, and
Right.
this isn't just like in the US, like we're seeing this globally. So be mindful of what you're consuming and put in boundaries and parameters if it's dysregulating you or those that you love. Community. I'm hearing you say, really invest, like double down, friends, family, community, people that are your people.
Yeah.
You know, like be
Yeah.
with your people. That is resourceful. That is resourcing, and it's probably resourcing them. And then authenticity. And the way I'm hearing you talk about it is like really go in and know what you value and who you are, and like love that, be with that, and let that guide you. Like find that inner rudder, if you will.
Right. Right. I do think also, and I joke around with, I have friends of all ages,
I know you do.
and I do.
And I love that about you.
And I think that it's like with every decade, you don't give a shit even more.
Yeah.
And it's an amazing gift. Like you kind of get more bold. I think it starts big time at 40.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And you just get to the point where it's really freeing.
Mm-hmm.
And because it's hard to be younger, you're still pleasing everybody.
Yeah.
And you're not really knowing where you fit. And you're trying to have a perception of yourself that you think is acceptable to whoever or whatever in business, personally, whatever it is. But as you get older, if you listen to yourself, there's some people who never do this, which I feel so bad for. But if you listen to yourself and own yourself and just say, this is who I am, and then respect all of that, it just gets more and more powerful.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm in a great place that, I mean, I truly, if you're not okay with who I am, okay.
Yeah.
Bye.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
yeah.
and I have zero emotion attached to that.
Yeah.
So it's very freeing. And it is something that I tell my younger girlfriends. I'm like, wait till you get to this age, and wait till you get to this. It's going to be even better.
Yeah.
Because that part is really better.
Yeah. Letting go of the people pleasing or the internal dialogue of like, I'm not enough, or I got, excluded from this. And yeah. So I hear that. And these are all good considerations when we're talking about right relationship with self. Everything that you're pointing us to is like, because it starts with our relationship with self. That's definitely been a thread of the season. But Debbie, I want to go into a little bit about your work, and maybe this takes us into the past a bit, because like you said, you've grown as a leader, and this like level of self-appreciation as well as acceptance has grown over time.
Yes.
One of the things I find so interesting about your work is the connection between you're a steward and a connector of organizations, corporate, as well as the celebrity world, and then sustainability practices.
Right.
Like, what is it about? I mean, that's fascinating to me. Tell us a little bit about that, what that is for you, and like, how did you get into it?
Well, I was like in my mid 40s when do you want to know the story of how
give us the story? Totally.
Okay. So I was invited by a mom, my son, it was in high school, a mom to go to a luncheon this was 1999. The end of 1999. So I've been around for a while with this, but to go to a luncheon, and it was my organization, the Environmental Media Association. It was their award show, which you've been to. It's a big
so awesome. Gala. It's an amazing gala. Yes.
Amazing, on a studio lot, millions of people, a huge carpet. It was a luncheon at the Beverly Hilton Hotel. And it was like not fabulous. But I was sitting there, and the people around had such great potential. And I was sitting next to a gentleman who I had no idea who he was the board chair of the organization. And I was not an environmentalist. I recycled, like that was it. Never was brought up that way. I'm in LA, and it just wasn't part of the conversation. And so what moved me was being able to use storytelling and the entertainment industry to weave conversations in and bring awareness. And I started asking him a million questions because I'm like, this is so important. I have 2 kids. This is so important. Why is this not a huge organization?
Yeah.
Why is everybody not doing this? Why aren't you doing X, Y, and Z? And he asked me to go to lunch with him. And this was at the end of the year of 1999. And we went to lunch, and he asked me to come and run the organization.
Wow.
Which I found out was because they were closing it. They had no money. They had no one running it. There was a small board left. There was a bigger board, and there was several people who were like, we're not leaving. And like one was Ed Begley Jr., the actor, and there was some producers. And my dear friend, Wendy Malick, had just joined the board. And Wendy was on this hit show, Just Shoot Me, with David Spade. It was like a top 10 show. And she had just joined. Didn't know anything, but I didn't even know Wendy yet. And so I walked into an office in the beginning of 2000, and there was one assistant who was wasted all the time and signing checks.
Oh my gosh.
And no files, no nothing. I knew nothing.
Wow.
And it was the beginning of the year, and I thought, okay, I'll make the awards in December, because I could just make that up. Maybe I'll learn, or maybe I won't, And I just started asking questions. And I think that's where the authenticity came in. I was old enough, but not that old, but I was old enough to say, and I was a young mom. So I had been a parent, kids, parent things, schools. I had done all of that, so that I did not question myself about asking questions.
Yeah.
Like I didn't have any of the insecurity of thinking I needed to know something. I just didn't care. I just asked everybody everything. And I pulled it off.
You sure have.
Yeah.
26 years later.
26 years later.
Look what you've built.
Right. And so I was able to run with something and create it in a way that felt good to me. So going back to that being a parent, I am in LA. My kids were in private school because the schools are not great in LA. So I was very used to like celebrity parents. So it wasn't like a weird world for me. I was on committees with them, and my son was doing plays. So the kids were in plays, people who are like professionals now. So there was no intimidation when it came to, I grew up in LA. So I knew the world. It was fine. So I was totally fine talking to people, asking them to do things. And then I had gone to film school. So I had a vision for what we should be doing story-wise. So created programs, started meeting people. I also found that the environmental world was old. It was old, and it was white. And it was a bunch of old, rich white people. And I thought, no one's going to relate to that.
Yeah.
We need to make this younger and more fun.
Yeah.
And so I started recruiting the younger 20-something actors to be part of it. And I started a Young Hollywood board. So including the regular board. And that's where I met some of my dearest friends, like our mutual friend Mullen and Lance Bass and Emmanuel Shrieky and all these people, Amy Smart, everybody came on. And so that we were able to nurture that demographic by using their faces and their friends to reach people on a relatable way for different ages. And that changed everything. Honestly.
Incredible. Amazing. And what do you think it's done for sustainability in the environment? What have you seen?
Well, I think that there's a lot that goes into that, because I think that making sustainability and environmental awareness a youth-oriented passion has brought that into the world in a different way.
Yeah.
The other thing is that I met Toyota in 2001, and they had this car, the Prius.
Yeah.
And not knowing anything that I was doing, I said to them, I think I can make Hollywood love this car. And we shook hands. And 25 years later, it's very interesting. So we launched the Prius with Toyota in 2001 and on, but I got celebrities to arrive at all the award shows in them. And so that taught me, and it blew up. I probably sold more cars than any car dealer.
Yeah. It became the Hollywood it car, didn't it?
It became the Hollywood it car, but we did that because for me, I thought, I can make this, if I get all these celebrities to understand that this is a technology that far surpasses the expensive cars that you're buying. This is what's chic.
Yes.
This is what's trendy.
Yes.
And you're the cool person if you're driving this car. If you're driving a big gas guzzler, you are not cool. Mm. And that worked. And it went through everywhere. It just became a global phenomenon. And especially with the years that they would be arriving at all the award shows. So what that taught me was bridging celebrity and lifestyle into the corporate world. Done this with all different kinds of sectors of business, but bringing in the idea that being responsible to the planet and to your consumers is going to make money, because ultimately that's what it is. So you will be more successful. I will help you by bringing our people to the forefront, but it has to be the right product. It has to be the right company, and it has to be real. This can't be something that you're doing just because. Like with Toyota, they had done R&D for 20 years about this technology before.
Wow.
It wasn't just to get into this moment. So like the companies that we work with, like that wine company I told you, they've been sustainable for 80 years since they started. That was what the owners wanted to do. And, we work with tea companies. We work with all kinds of companies, but it has to be real. And if it's real, then celebrities trust me when I say, let's talk about it.
Right. Let's partner here potentially.
Right. And I would never use any of my relationships to promote something that wasn't 100% correct. And
there's another example of, being in right relationship. It's
right.
And I'll take it back to the authenticity. You're ensuring that the different partnerships that you are really brokering and bringing together, that everyone is in it for the right reason.
100%.
It's not just about publicity or making money, although obviously we know we live in times where that's super important. But it's also about helping the environment, people walking the talk and saying this is actually going to be better for our planet.
Right. It has to be better, and it has to be real, or else I'm not going to get the same people for the last 25 years to talk about things that I found this company. And they're like, okay, I don't have to go. Yeah. You did the research. I'm good. Yeah. Because I never done something that wasn't real.
People trust you and your integrity. Right. It sounds like integrity is like a core value of yours as a leader. And that's really served this work that you've created.
I think the minute you do something that is not authentic to who you are, you blow it. You lose all credibility, and nothing is worth that. Mm-hmm. Like, why would you do that? Because the whole point of what the mission of the organization is and what we all do is to allow whoever you're talking to trust that you have done your homework.
So important, especially I think, again, in this moment in time when all leaders, all shapes or sizes, you don't have to be leading a team or leading a company. We consider we're all leaders in this moment.
Right.
And so having one's own integrity is really another important anchor, what I'm hearing in your story.
Yeah, completely.
Debbie, what is it about the environment to you that's part of your purpose? What has you want to serve in that way?
I mean, I think it's everything, and we've abused it. This is only been the last 100, maybe 120 years that we are screwing it up.
Yeah.
It's like before that, our food was clean to eat. It was actually natural. It was actually when I was growing up, when it was so fabulous that all these chemicals came in and preservatives, and it was like amazing. And
Yeah.
then all the repercussions that have happened. So for me, sustainability and environment and keeping natural resources safe is something that you have to do for you as a parent.
Yeah.
You want your kids and your grandkids and their kids to all be living in a world where they can see the beauty of nature, they can eat food that's healthy, they can there's clean air. When I first moved to California from New York, I thought it was foggy all the time. It was smog, which was crazy. We actually got rid of that
Yeah.
during my childhood because they had like a Clean Air Act finally, which I didn't even know about, but somehow it became sunny again. But it was foggy because all the emissions that were going out from all the different manufacturing, no one was thinking about that. So, we all live here. This is, you're living in like paradise. You're living surrounded by actual nature.
Yeah.
I'm in the city,
Yeah.
but I still want to be able to, we need to protect people all over the planet and give them the respect that they can be able to be safe
Yeah.
when they're outside of their homes and in their homes, and that food will be available and it's grown without anything
Yeah.
destroying it. And so that's my passion.
And there's another great example of right relationship when you talk about being a good steward to the earth and to the planet. And that has come up so much in our season around exploring right relationship is reminding people, even if you live in cities, to be more aware of the fact that we are part of a greater ecosystem.
Right.
And, all of our ancestors knew this, right? They all knew this. And this is we have forgotten, and I have said this times, listeners have heard that I believe that's a big reason why we're in this chaos that we're in, is because we have forgotten where we've come from. We have forgotten our relationship to the land and to our lineages. And Debbie, I know you've been like really navigating a challenging time for your lineage. And,
Right.
In this context of right relationship, and what you've just said about being a grandmother,
Right.
and leaving the world behind a certain way, what do you want to say about that?
Well, it's a very strange time, and I could do like hours on this, but I'm Jewish. I grew up on my mother's side, they escaped the Holocaust. I lost all my extended family in the Holocaust at Auschwitz. And when I grew up, never had a thought that this could ever happen again. Meaning the negative and the conversation of hatred because of a person's religion makes no sense to me. And this has been escalating. And the scariest part is that it happened really fast. Publicly, it happened really fast, which means that it never left. And so because of social media and because of the events in the world, it's been able to unleash what's probably been there for thousands of years. And this is something that has come up. I went to Eastern Europe recently, and I just wanted to go and visit Auschwitz, visit Austria, visit some of the countries. And I went to Jewish museums, and persecuting and trying to murder and destroy Jews has happened every 85 years since the Middle Ages, which is so hard to understand. And like my father's side, they had to escape Russia. It was different. It was around, the 1900s, and they got to New York because they were thrown out of everywhere in their villages. And so there's always been that. But right now, I think that because of the media, the narrative has gotten so loud that and you see all these things are happening to, Jewish people walking around if they are wearing any symbols, or if they're wearing a yarmulke, or if they're wearing whatever it is. And this is like otherworldly for me. Like, this
Yeah.
can't happen. And so it's a constant thing. It's something that I didn't think about most of my adult life. I just thought, we're great. Everybody is the same. Nobody cares. I love my heritage. You love yours. Let's all mix it up. And all of a sudden, there's hatred that's coming out, and really seriously, all over. It's synagogues and communities. Obviously, we just saw it in Australia recently again. Like,
Yeah.
what is going on? And
Yeah.
it's also something that there's no way to wrap your head around it, because it makes no sense.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, and it's also hard to equate this with other kinds of minorities,
Yeah.
because most minorities have horrible things happen to them,
Yeah.
but they're not murdered,
Yeah.
and or having countries that want to destroy them completely. And, so it's been very challenging.
Yeah.
And it's very challenging as a grandmother, especially
Yeah.
because we live in Los Angeles here. We're not seeing it in our exact community, but you don't live in a tiny little area.
Yeah.
You go out, and also the fact that they know this is it's so painful.
Yeah. And this is
Like,
when we were talking about holding right relationship around all of this that's happening, and having the little people in your life. Like, how do you support them to have their innocence, which is part of
exactly.
their birthright, and then
Right.
you have this knowledge. How are you navigating that?
You're trying to, you celebrate the holidays, and, you've got the four older ones all go to the same school, because it's K through 12.
Yeah.
And so I've got a lower school, middle school, and upper school kids. It's not a Jewish school. It's everything, but they do a lot of celebrating of every holiday for every religion. It's a really beautiful experience. So they feel free in their school, in their environment. They don't think about it. The older ones, you have to say, like, when you go to certain places, put your shirt up, or take the necklace off, because you don't want to be put in a situation where it could be dangerous. I never had that growing up. My kids never had that growing up. So you try not to make a big deal about it, but they know what's going on in the world.
Yeah.
So the younger ones don't. I've got one that's almost 4, so she's really little. She doesn't have a clue. And my 9-year-old knows, but he's 9.
Yeah.
But it's the teenagers that really know. But they're still like full on teenagers. So when you're a teenager, your narcissism is like, up here.
Yeah.
And it's boys, it's parties, it's school. And so you want to make sure that that's where really they're living,
Mm-hmm.
and they're not having to deal too much with what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know, I've never lived in a situation like this.
These are really, really intense times, so thank you for sharing your experience. And I know it's been overwhelming, overwhelming.
Totally overwhelmed.
Yeah. One of our colleagues, who's a woman of color, who was on, she's explaining her lived experience in this moment in time. And there's so much polarity happening, and so much againstness. And that, I think, goes back to what we were talking about. It's being fed through the media. And I'm really hoping that through the conversations we're having, we can have people who do have different lineages, heritages, faiths, lived experiences, so we can all hear each other again, because that's part of what's been lost. And when I think about right relationship, and when I think about our ancestors, no matter, where you come from, they lived in such smaller communities.
Right.
You did it. You might have known what was going on over in the community beside you,
Right.
but there's no way you knew what was going on across the planet, across the ocean.
Right. Right.
And so this is part of the dysregulation of all of us, is that we're seeing it in our communities, like you spoke about, and then we're seeing things happen all around the world.
Right.
And so it's like a barrage of trauma that we're being fed to.
Right.
And I will say, honestly, I don't know in this moment how to be in right relationship with it. Like I've been doing pretty good. And then recently, with the most recent information that's come out, it kind of put me over an edge.
It's really hard. And I think that what you kind of need to do is really manage your social feeds so that you're not getting really negative stuff about how you feel about the world.
Exactly.
Because you can't read that. It's better to be going on and reading about your friends and reading about people who are agreeing with you, reading about, sustainability and environment and things that you feel are productive. So you do have to take care of yourself more.
Yes.
But again, you do know that we're living in a world that we never thought we would be in a situation like this on so many levels.
Yes.
And so there's a lot of shock with this. Like, what do you mean this is happening? Like, this is crazy. So, and that's where I think community is really important. And whether it's the community with your organization, with your board members, with your business relationships, with your family, putting things together, being really purposeful in what you're doing and how you're participating in your life, I think is really important.
It's really important.
You know that you're doing what you're doing to the highest level of how you think that, you can be helpful.
The piece I want to acknowledge in you, so many things I want to acknowledge in you, but like recently going back to where many of your ancestors went through huge trauma and left and were liberated off the planet. So this has been another theme in this conversation of right relationship, is people reconnecting to their lineages wherever they're from on the planet. I'd be curious to hear from you when you tune into your lineage and they see what you've created with your life, this intersection of worlds that you've brought together, the way you've mothered, grandmothered as Omi. What would they say to you, Deb? What would they say to you about your impact and who you've become?
I don't know. But I will say, when I was in Vienna, where my grandparents and my mother and her siblings, where they lived and where they escaped, I was incredibly close to my grandmother. She was my person. And I was really scared to go back to Vienna. I thought I would feel like everyone there participated in the murders of my family, and I didn't know. And so when I got there, it was really surprisingly the opposite. First, I think it was a younger demographic at that point. So I wasn't seeing people who were 95 that could have been part of that. I was seeing younger people, but I was feeling my grandmother everywhere in such a great way. I was feeling it in the food, in the pastries, in the way that the hotel was decorated, and the language. And I understood a lot because I grew up with everybody speaking Viennese. And so I was understanding like so much more than I thought I would understand. And the culture, and I was able to take in the beauty and think, this is where I came from. It's a beautiful city. There's incredible art there. This is amazing. And it was a much more connective and positive experience than I thought. And as far as looking back at what I've done, I think she was really the person that was the most meaningful to me. And I just think she would be, and she was also very authentic. And so like we would sit and like chatter about like what the rest of the family was doing, and we would be like talking shit about everybody and like, why are they doing this? They're showing off, they're doing this. And she was sort of like me. I was like her. And so I think she would look at what I'm doing, especially especially as a parent and as a grandparent, and obviously the whole world
Yeah.
that I've created, that I've been part of. I think she would just think, wow, like
Yeah.
you did it and you're being you.
Yeah. Yeah. I no doubt that your ancestors are saying, way to go, Debbie. You've created a legacy. It's a beautiful one. And I think this piece around reconnecting to our roots, no matter what your heritage is, I think is essential right now. I've been saying this all season. I've done some deep ancestral lineage healing of my own. And even when you find relatives or periods of time where maybe the ancestors weren't doing things that I'm proud of, definitely I have that in my lineage. It's important to recognize that and be with that and like metabolize it, because so many of our ancestors couldn't. They didn't have the awareness that we have.
Right.
And as much as we're saying technology right now is creating a lot of issues, it's also created our ability to accelerate, the human condition, and having self-awareness and tools to optimize, being in a human body, if you will, be that blunt.
Right. No, totally true. Totally true. They were more, I think, for most of the generations before us, they were in survival mode so much in so many different ways. And we kind of had, or have had, I don't know, the luxury, we are in survival mode now, but to kind of not be in that, be in a generations where we are able to look at ourselves and try to better who we are.
Yeah.
Whereas before, that wasn't the case for most of civilization.
That's right. So, well, that being said, tell the listeners how they can stay connected with you and find out more about EMA.
Our handles are green, the number 4, EMA.org. So that's the website. It's the Environmental Media Association. I think it's there in different places, and it's Debbie Levin. And I'm on Instagram. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on everything. I'm on X. I'm on all kinds of stuff.
You're there doing your magic.
I'm just doing my magic, but go online and look at the website. It's really interesting. I mean, the other thing that we've done that's really impactful beyond a lot of these relationships is we've created the sustainability standard for the entertainment industry globally. And we did that in 2003. So long ago, before anything was talked about.
Yeah. Huge.
Yeah. I went to a set, they weren't recycling, and I had a heart attack, and I was like, what are we doing?
We got to change that. Well, and Debbie, just in this moment, what are your final thoughts, words, or, almost like a prayer for humanity in this moment in time when we're thinking about being in right relationship with ourselves, one another, the planet?
I think going back to trusting yourself and being authentic and non-judgmental for other lifestyles, or if people are different than you, I just think you just need to be yourself and be able to open up when you feel safe, because that's all anybody really wants.
Thank you, Debbie, for being you and for opening up here today and for, again, being yourself and doing this good work in the world. Really appreciate you.
It's so good to be with you.